Bonsoir à tous. Donc, bonsoir, bienvenue aujourd'hui. Nous allons parler du sujet les femmes.
So, good
aussi
evening.
voyagent.
We are talking about
Pourquoi
women
préciser
coming
Eh bien,
on the
tout
trip.
simplement parce que
Why
les
do
femmes
we have
sont absentes
to
des récits.
say
Soit
it?
le
Because
récit de la
women are
grande
not
histoire,
in
parce que les récits de
the
la grande
storytelling,
histoire sont des
because
récits de guerre,
the
et de
history with the
conquête.
capital H
Bien,
are talking
des
about
explorateurs
conquest
et des militaires
and talking about
des croisades,
explorers, military, crusades, men.
Elles sont aussi
But they are
absentes
also
d'autres
absent
récits,
from
les récits
other
de l'imaginaire, des
stories,
romans, des films.
imagination,
Ces dernières
and
années, il s'avère qu'elles ont
over
été
the
davantage
past few years
racontées,
they have
souvent racontées par des hommes.
the stories are told and imagined by men. So these adventurers and travelers, they are also rare as role models. And why is that? Because women don't like to tell about themselves or don't like to brag about things. And sometimes we have just seen two films told by women who dared telling about other women and telling about themselves. So today we are surrounded by three women who are ready to tell them their stories, brag about it, and without further ado, please introduce yourself, Sarah.
Sarah.
So my name is Sarah, and
le vélo, je dirais que je l'utilise principalement pour le voyage.
I use bicycles for traveling. I'm not a cyclist. I'm not a fast racer. I'm not very comfortable on a lot of grounds, but I take a lot of pleasure in cycling kilometers. For the moment, they've been in North Africa and the Middle East, and the last trip was last year on the Tuscan Trail, and it was the first time I was with people taking the same route as me, and the last solo trip was last year in Sudan. Good evening. Did you like the film? Yes? Oh, that was a bit quiet. Okay, we'll come back to the film later. So, my name is Manon, so I have made the film you've just seen. After the trip, we launched an initiative called Welcome to My Garden, because we were welcomed by many, many people. We were very grateful for their hospitality. And when there was COVID and we had to force to travel close by home, we wondered how we could make sure that this hospitality can be in France and Belgium. So Welcome to My Garden is a network of citizens who open their gardens, so when you travel walking or cycling in software, you can camp overnight for free. So, and it sort of went on to other projects. So cycling for me is for traveling and also on a daily basis, and my professional life as well. And that's it, really. And I'm Belgian, as you can hear in my accent. So good evening. My name is Anne de Coster, so I come from Calais in France. I'm not in the films you've seen or that you will see, but I met Eloise Bruxelles when she showed her film in Calais last year. And I cycle because I used to live in a farm that was remote from the village, so I had to cycle to the village. So it was quicker on bike. And for going to high school, if you wanted to see the friends on a Thursday, you had to take your bike. And then I started cycling. I've always been rather comfortable. I used to cycle to work, but I have 4 children, 4 daughters, and we only had one car, so I had 4 girls, one at the back, one at the front, and we had 2 bikes. And after that, when people came, when they saw me coming to work, and I was working with the bikes, I was a psychologist coming on a bike. Sometimes I was drenched, and then when I retired, I left at 61. So I retired at 61, and my eldest daughter had studies in the Balkans in Belgrade. So going to Belgrade on a holiday, we camped along the Danube River. So I went from Calais And we met some people who took that motorway on a bike from all over the place. Everybody knew about it. The first thing when I retire, I go on my own on a bike and go to the Black Sea. So that they gave me a bike for my retirement with the trailer. My trailer is here. It's the same as the one I was offered, a Riverside 500 from Decathlon with a trailer from Decathlon. And then I gave back the trailer and I bought some bag. So that's it. Every year, the first time I went to Constanta, the second time I went from Calais to Lisbon. So Calais Constanta was 5,075 kilometers, and Calais to Lisbon was 3,500. And the following year followed too late. I went to Luxembourg in the south of France. And last year, I wanted to go all the way to Kiev on the Velo Route 4. With the war, I was stopped. So I went to Prague and back. So that was 4,500 kilometers. And to conclude, because that was a quick introduction, so I've cycled a lot, very far, and the more I went, so I went to ultra cycling. I discovered emancipation, so taking control of my time, of my space, and adventure. And I also was seeking this space outside the world. I was working hard, and when I needed to disconnect from work, I went cycling. I go cycling. So I wanted to share that with the greatest many. So I launched last year a group of women ride called the group, and then the Pocoloco Adventures to discover Europe from France. So we are going to start actually on the theme of lessons learned through the practice of cycling. One of the first questions is, going alone is the only thing that is valid, or what do you discover when you're alone? Manon, would you like to start? The choice of going it alone, or did you choose to be solo? When I left, I always said I was in love with Driss already, so I couldn't actually leave him behind. And then after that, I'm often asked the question when you say, could you have gone on your own? As if to have a feminist video, I had to be on my own. But you never raise the question as that, what did it provide to Driss going with me, coming with me? So could I have gone alone? No, personally, because it's a check-in, check-out emotion that is emotional. We meet a lot of people on the road, but sometimes it's difficult to digest, a lot of questions, a lot of decisions to take every day. And I love the idea of having my family, someone that is intimate with me. It could have been a friend, it could have been not necessarily a man, but someone I could debrief on the road and saying, this happened, what do you think? To give place to what we felt. And I think that personally, on my own, it would have been too heavy emotionally for me. But maybe I'll give you the floor, or maybe Anne. It's the opposite. I had the feeling that I was working for the others all the time, and I really wanted to be independent. And I love to be alone. I love to be... I'm tired when there's a lot of noise, people around me, so cycling was ideal to travel alone. And also I was cooking a lot because my husband doesn't cook. So I said, it makes you smile, but if he comes with me, so I take a good breakfast in the morning, but I can cycle until 2 or 3. So when I just have a bite for lunch. If you had come with me, what did you discover in solitude? Why do you like it? Well, it's freedom. It's total freedom. You don't expect anything from the pace of others. I go at my own pace. I take a lot of pictures, so I'm not preventing anybody from going faster than me. So it's the world without compromise, right? Yes, well, even if you're on your own, you have to cycle with the others. You need the others. I had the feeling it would be better to meet people on my own. Do you have the feeling when you're alone that you create your route under your feet, while when it's someone, you follow someone? Do you have this kind of feeling? Well, I think that if I'd cycled with someone, it would have been my husband, but I wouldn't. We don't have the same taste, so we get along in life, but he listens to jazz and he's sort of he's quiet, but I need. And the other lessons learned, we often talk about topics about fears. We talk about the fears at night, and then you connect the fears to natural elements like wild elements. Are you afraid of nature? Are you afraid of human beings? Are you trying to overcome your fears? Well, at first, I never prepare my trips. I go and I follow a line. I take velo routes. So sometimes I go astray, but I never prepare my trips. And the first year, I camped a lot, so it's okay. Camping on your own is nothing. You go on a campsite. But as I went longer, then it's a bit too expensive as well. The warm shower is okay, but you must talk to people. You must meet people. So you stay with them. And my thing was that I write my own journal every day, my diary. So I want to be alone from 11 to 1 o'clock. So night, you're not afraid of the night, are you? No, less and less. And honestly, I realized over the last trips that I created adventures and I had some funny things, but I will not tell you everything straight away. We'll have time. And do you conquer your fears of the night? Are they projected fears of your family that you leaving? For me, it was different because I had a lot of friends who went alone, and she was told very often, you have to be careful, you have to be careful. That's projected fears. When you look as a traditional couple, you represent what society is expecting as a very traditional, conventional couple. And you learn how to manage everything. You no longer have problems. When you're on a trip, every problem is a source of solutions. So you learn to look at things as opportunities. One day, we had a motto. We said, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Sometimes they said a great road, someone would give us water and fruit, and there was shade. And then other days, someone had punctures, or you were sick, or you were tired, and we couldn't find a place to sleep in. So, you know, that day, that we would win the next day. So that was the whole idea. The fear of the unknown. There's nothing that's really unknown. And actually, the fear of the others actually disappears when you cycle, because people, the majority of people mean well. When you're on a bike, there is a recognition of the effort and a respect for the effort. So we have to do is go like this, and I can talk to you. So it creates meetings and moments and care and empathy. And this is why we all travel on a bike, because it's a very human experience, creating a bond No, I just, for example, very often it happened during my trips to be stopped by men and telling me, "Are you alone? And you're not afraid?" I said, "What should I be afraid of? And who should I be afraid of? I can see that you're very bad. You're going to hurt me." And they smile because, you see, no one is going to say tomorrow, Mrs. So-and-so, she talked for 5 minutes with a man and nothing happened. Nobody's going to print that in the papers. To talk about a more practical topic that is connected to our practice of cycling on the trip is the logistics aspect, especially your outfits and what you can create with what you wear and hygiene on a daily basis. Do you have an experience of when you go on a trip, Sarah? How many outfits do you carry with you? Tell us. Well, it all depends on whether I have water or not. And I think that really I started having a kind of a routine, hygiene routine, from the moment that I was in the desert, where water is limited to what I can carry. And very clearly, I don't want to wash my face with the water. I'd rather drink it. So I went for the wet cloth, the wet wipes. It's not really eco-friendly, but we use wet wipes for everything, for washing your hands, and it's magical. I know that you cross the desert, you've got sand on your face, so at the end of the day, it's great. And for clothes, I used to travel light, but so when I know that I will not have water, I'd rather go for cloth when it's not going to smell bad if I wear it 2 or 3 days. Or yes, we are attached to the clothes. Personally, I'm attached to the clothes where I've lived adventure. So when you go home, you wear them all the time. I don't display them in my room, but it's difficult to throw them away. And you, on the topic, so how did you manage? How do you travel? Do you travel light or? I have a lot of weight. I carry a lot of weight, honestly. 27 kilos on the bike, plus myself. But I'd rather do that, but have my outfits. A lot of people smile about it because when I write about it, a lot of friends in Calais, and they are my age or older, and sometimes they tell me, well, I went and actually took a picture of myself with a bike in front of the station and said, I'm going. And there's already 120, 130, men as well, but I take at least 1 or 2 skirts, and the culottes actually. I like cotton T-shirts which are heavier, but I couldn't care less, so I have an extra kilo, but sometimes I have the matching hairband, and then I use blue nail varnish. That's my thing. Say, oh, you're putting some blue varnish on, you're going to leave soon. I'd rather have more kilos, and for hygiene, I just wash my clothes. I just stop sometime, and then I wash all my clothes. You don't have to. You can stop in a hotel, or you can stop in a. But when I go camping, it's not desert either. I never been outside Europe for the moment, but for the reasons for the time being. Concerning clothes, do you use underwear? Are you having cycling shorts? No. 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 And you have a saddle that is perfectly adapted to your body shape? It didn't used to be, but now, yeah, it's adapted. It's a leather one? Yeah. And again, do you have a normal, do you cycling short? Do you travel with cycling shorts? No, no. I have a bra with a strapless bra, so it's easier when you take it off. So even my briefs without cycling shorts, sometimes it's a problem because sometimes I get chafing for the first 10 days. So in my first aid kit, I have creams and ointments that I can use. Some knock cream, all kind of stuff to. In ultra cycling, hygiene becomes one of the prime. If you don't, you stop. I mean, if your bottom hurts, you stop. That's it, you know. And then my advantage is that I'm 65, so I no longer have my periods, so it's less of a problem as when you're younger. I can confirm that, yes. Did you like to talk about it? Do you need to manage that particularly? Yes, you do actually. It requires something specific, but first of all, I have a painful period. So I try as fun with the traveling, the cycles become irregular, and sometimes the warmers, I put some warm pads on my back and on my tummy. It helps, and for protection, it's okay. A cup is okay for when you get water. So I protect myself with just menstrual briefs, and actually you have that. I haven't tried it, but there's our cycling shorts by Wilma for when you're on your period. So how do you eat during this kind of trips? Well, you don't eat. Sarah doesn't eat, but do you cook? Do you go to discover all the delicate dishes of the countries you cross? So, well, for us on this trip, it all depended on which country you're in. In Turkey, for example, it's a luxury because you have food everywhere. So it's very easy because you eat out. It's eating out in Iran, for example, with the recession, they don't have many restaurants open, so you eat at home. So we used to eat with the people who invited us. And in Tajikistan, you only have 2 national dishes, and it's not very good. So at one point, you just eat potato soup and some chocolate bars. So we found Auchan there, and there are tricks. It all depends in the country and where you were camping or not. So you have to adapt to what you feel like. And sometimes to go to a restaurant, it was great. So it all depended. It's better when in ultra, you go from a petrol station to another. So it's kind of standardization of the international standardization of the petrol station. Manon, on your film, why did you decide to dedicate it to women? And how did you meet these women? Well, gender and mobility is something that I've been thinking about it. I'm from a very provincial town of Mons in Belgium, and when I started cycling, when I went to Brussels, I realized that the public space was available in a different way. I could come back from an evening party, I could leave when I wanted because I had a bike. So if I'm allowed to go on the public space, I started looking at the Tour de France, why it's only for men and why no. I started writing a bicycle called They Cycle, and a friend of mine had said it's winds in your back, and this friend of mine, this girlfriend of mine, really inspired me. So I said, I want to go a trip, and then I've made all the mistakes, so you contact me if you want to have you want to film your trip. So I tried to, before I left, I tried to find out the initiatives on my road. So I didn't go to Romania, but I could have visited them in Romania, Bulgaria, and then there's a great thing in Turkey, and then you have the bike ride, and they put me in contact with NEP in Istanbul, and then Bergamo, and so on. So I was following Shima on Instagram. So they have an account in Iran, so they are a warm shower. And then Laura, for example, who is wearing pink, it was a warm shower, and we slept with her, and she was telling me about we're going to leave. Could I film you with your pink bike and your pink clothes? So part of it was planned, part of it. And Sarah, for you, why did you take part in the film called Les Échappés, dedicated to women and the role of women in cycling? Well, it's a film about women on bike, but also made by women on bikes. So this is why I did and accepted to take part in this project. And also because I saw that the idea was not to have an archetype of women cycling, but rather to show the diversity that exists among women cycling. And for Océane and Louise are very caring girls. And therefore there was the moment when I spent 1 week with them on the bike, and they were able to tell me about all these women I met. So it inspired me a lot, and allowing me to go further, and also allowing me to be more legitimate in my practice of cycling. If I went on the Tuscany Trail, if I had met Océane and Louise for Les Échappés, I would have never tried the Tuscany Trail. To talk about GRU and the GRU and mixity, mixed gender, the idea of having an outing with only one gender is to do something that was fun outdoors with women. Before it was something about a flag-bearing thing. It was not against, but there was this will of saying, when you are among women, we're hardly ever outdoors. So I wanted to share this pleasure, the simple pleasure of cycling together and discovering a kind of, it's a great emancipation tool. And I think that I really want women, so that women dare do things outdoors together. So this is what men do. We're now going to move on to questions from the audience. I hope that you were inspired by our exchanging, so I hope that you have loads of questions. Okay, I can't see any hands up. How do you do in the desert to be with or without water? How do you manage water in the desert? What I do is that I fill up everything I have. So I usually have about 15 liters of water, and as soon as if I have like 5 meters missing, anytime I can fill up, I do it, because I don't know when I'm going to find some water. And when I see that I'm starting to be low in water, I manage my consumption of water. But very clearly, I never was 3 days without water. But then I cannot plan ahead. That's a lot, isn't it, 3 days? You went into a desert as well, Manon? Yes, just one thing. The film Les Échappés will be in line. And then there's the story of Sarah that's really impressive. It's really on the 1st of June. Well, we were on the Silk Road, so you had all the Turkish trucks going there to go to China. So de facto, we had like a cafe every 50 kilometers. So it was not really the desert, really. I mean, a cafe, I mean, it's a bit, you could buy fried eggs, a chocolate bar, and water, but you had to manage 50 kilometers under 40 degrees, but it was not the desert. We had the system, and you were telling us about this, but you had you put the bottle of water inside your cool box. If the water is cold at the beginning of the day and it's actually difficult on your bags, but you have some cold water in the desert. Even Anne, you have to keep your butter hard. It's for the butter hard. I cannot having milk and chicory in the morning. I take normal milk actually with me. Usually it's half liters or quarter liters, even better, one bottle at a time. But otherwise it's going to be off. Butter on bread, whether it's stale bread or fresh bread. I need my butter, not salted butter, but it's butter, bread and butter. And I have butter. I put 250 grams of butter in my box, and then I have 3 ice cubes. The challenge is to find the person who's going to put that into it's kind of the recyclable ice packs. So I need to find someone who's going to put those ice packs in the freezer overnight. So put it in the morning, and then I put a survival kit over it, and then if it's hot, my butter, I put my jumper on it, my wool jumper. But I can tell you that at night, the butter, of course, in the overnight it's cold, so I have a good thickness of butter on my bread in the morning for breakfast. That's luxury, isn't it? Thank you for this film that we've just seen. You over there, okay. And I was really, it allowed me to take some hindsight because I've traveled to Latin America, and this aspect of women and cycling was very present. And we've seen it in the Middle East up to part of Asia. Is there something you can do in China? So why is cycling a fertile ground for the emancipation of women? How do you feel about it? How do you perceive that? You have 1 point for a great question. What I've seen is that to what extent the cycling a bicycle is an excuse for communities of women gather around something and create movements of bodies and therefore of thoughts, and therefore freedom and emancipation. But to what extent it was a social object. And sometimes in the Western world we see it as a utilitarian object to travel with. But actually there's a lot of things to conceal that. And all the women I've met, they were all leaders in their communities. In Bergama, for example, the girl learned to cycle at night at 45. I mean, learning to cycle at night, I mean, how can you do that? I was judging her, but when I was starting skateboarding, I had to stop because I wasn't good, but I had to learn at night. Because socially speaking, I was afraid of being judged for starting at 34. So she learned during the night, and then she taught other women, and now she has a club, and they cycle together every Sunday, and now she's inspiring more people. And after a breast cancer, she went around Turkey to show more people. So every person was really of incredible, impressive strength. And then I'm going to take other people with me. And then there was this kind of movement, in the movement of the body, this is like a social movement, and we're together. And to conclude, if you do a bike ride in Izmir, when I called her, I said, why don't you say you are feminists? Well, because we don't need to claim anything. We are de facto feminists. And the fact that we meet once a year to cycle on the day without car is one event, but underlying there's 100 of Facebook pages that are active throughout the year, and women meet to cycle together. So it's always one excuse at one point. It's a symbolic moment where new contracts are going to be made and new help is going to be provided. I have a question to follow that, but how do you want to continue? Do you want to continue disseminating this message and these values of all the women you've met now that you're back? When I started editing the film, I had no scenario. I didn't know what story I was telling. And as I went along, at the 5th or 6th version of the film, I realized that I wanted to be positive about the world. Because we have a lot of narrative things, you see negative things all over the place. And showing something, it's just a couple of stories. It's just a trip, it's one point of view at one specific time. So it's got to be taken with a pinch of salt, but I wanted to show that there are things that we don't expect. And a lot of positiveness, a lot of things that were moving, happening. And to change this, this is why I made this film. I had no experience to edit a film. I suffered a lot. But I had my obsession. I had to take this story somewhere. And now when I have someone who tags me on Instagram saying, so we're all different, we all do the same thing. It's media, it's a means, that's what makes it that you can change things by telling this story. Do you have more questions? Thank you, first of all, for sharing this with us. It's very interesting. I wanted to know what were your most difficult problems, or could you tell us about one of the most difficult problems? After Sarah's thinking about it. I was thinking about it and said, well, I don't find many. It's maybe a mechanical breakdown where in the middle of nowhere and everything breaks at the same time. A bit like you look behind, there's nothing. Oh yes, I was in Patagonia. And I was had bags on both sides of me, and my luggage carrier just broke. And when it breaks, you say, what am I going to do? How am I going to carry my bags? And there was nothing to repair it. I got some help, and I waited 1 year. It was the end of the trip. I said, I'm not going to stop here, am I? So, and then an American I had met several times on the road, and he came, and we had to catch a ferry to another place. And he got his, he got his knife out and circled and repaired my luggage carrier. And I missed the ferry. I had to take the next one, but he repaired my luggage carrier just immediately. It was amazing. So yeah, you create. I mean, breakdowns allow you to meet people. I'm used to that. Well, we didn't have much. I didn't have a puncture actually. What kind of tires did you have? I couldn't repair a wheel. I learned how to repair a puncture during COVID like everyone else. It's more like when you're sick. After Tajikistan, I was so tired, and we pushed our limits, and at one point, my body said, stop. I had... so for 1 week, I had just bits of chocolate bars. So I've never eaten a peanut butter chocolate bar ever since. And you want to call your mom, so what am I doing here? And that's it. It's a couple of days later. Do you remember something? Your worst problem? When you're sick, I had the experience last year. I just felt sick. I had dengue in Sudan, and I wanted to continue, and I should have stopped and just listened to my body, but I continued. And each time I got to a new family I used to fall, they would take me to the hospital. It was the same scenario. So you have illness, And a misunderstanding, one of the biggest problem, it's not even a problem, but again in Sudan, in a place that I thought was empty, and it was at a moment where my presence was scary to people, would scare people, so would meet a lot of women with a goat or children, and they were afraid of me, they would go running. So at night, when I had to find a place to sleep, I wanted to be on my own and not bother anyone. And I noticed that there were several tents, so I said I have to announce them that I'm here and I'm going to sleep nearby. And by going towards the first person was so scared of me. She was shouting over the place, running all over the place, and she went to other people, so just women. And I went to see her, and I took my helmet to show that I was a woman. I took my glasses, but they're so scared of me, terrorized, and therefore they start to throwing things, stones at me. So I went to show you that I'm not afraid, and I'm not going to do them anything. I was beginning to be jealous. They said, what? And I asked them what they want, and they said, go. No problem. So I leave, but stopped throwing stones at me. And they did. They stopped. And only that it was late. So actually, I slept not far from the camp. I just put up my tent when it was quiet, and I was terrorized all night long. As much of them as probably less than them actually, because they were fully terrorized. I chose to leave. They didn't choose that someone came to see them. And that night, I slept very late, and during the night, I could feel that the tent was moving, and I think that's the husbands, and they followed my trace. I cannot tell you, but actually I was afraid of that tent moving. And I said, you're okay, you just go out and you see what the problem is. And actually when I opened and I realized it was a camel. Sorry, a camel that was moving because I took his place. So I moved my tent because I was on his spot. Thank you. It's adventures, nothing serious for me, but last year when I went to Prague, I got to Prague and I visited, and it was the weather was already bad because it was October. I went to Pilsen. It's a city under Prague where beer was invented. So I got to the city, but it was really very busy. A lot of people did, because there was a football game on that night against Essen in Germany. So all the football fans were a lot of colors to support the teams. And so I went to the tourist office and asked them if there was a campsite. There is a campsite. So they had the phone number, and I called them up, and they couldn't find any place because the city was just fully booked because of the football fans, and there was a puppet festival at the same time. And actually, I called them and they said the campsite is closed. I said, campsite, I'll go to the, I'll put my tent, I can go under the fence to get washed. Anyway, so I did that. I camped next. I would camp next to and the gate to the campsite was closed. I was with my bike like this, and he opened the gate with the code, and I went into there and I said, it was the police of the city that was camping there, and they were in small houses. They said, I'm not going to hide now, I'm inside, I cannot get out. So first, I said, I'm going to pitch my tent there, on the grass, in the open. But then I said, I could see the police in the underwear were just taking the shower, just men, only men. So I went to the toilet, so I put my bike there, went into the booth, and then the men were on the left, and you had to go through a second door for the ladies. I opened the door, and there was like 20 basins. I went to get to my thing, and I entered my bikes in there. I opened my sleeping bag behind the door, and I wasn't actually, it was like 6 o'clock at night. After that, they went eating, and I could hear them laughing, so it was okay. And then I said, I'm on my own here, but I'm going to spend all my life in the toilet. I've got nothing to eat, so I got 2 apples, some peanuts, and then I just went, go to the lake, and then I could hear them laughing in the background. I was on a lounge chair, and after some people came, and there was no visit at all. But when you're afraid, is because you say, if I wake up in the middle of the night and someone surprises me, it's okay, I would have slept already. They're going to throw me out, are they, in the middle of the night? But the next day I left under the rain, so really had fun with the plastic bags. That's how I protected my feet as well. And I visited the Pilsen cellars in my flip-flops. So people laughed at me, but the beer was good. Do we have more questions from the audience? Yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this great film. It was really inspiring. I have 2 short questions. The first one is, you're talking about the 27 kilos of load. I wanted to know how much you carried for the other cyclists. My question is, what is your next cycling trip? Well, in terms of weight, I never weighed actually how much I had, but I know that I left with too much, that's for sure. And therefore, I sent things when we got to Istanbul, and sent back things to Belgium because it just wasn't possible. But I bought a pair of jeans, because you can be a woman, not just a cyclist, at night, and feel comfortable. It was important for me. And the second thing for me, the next trip, now we leave every year, we go on a trip for the year, so there is no other way than just slow moving, like walking or cycling or boat. So the next big streak is Africa. From leaving from here, France, Spain, Morocco. I'd like to go to Algeria, and therefore we have to take the time, and time is a resource that is scarce. Same thing for the weight, I have no idea whatsoever. And for the next trip, at the end of the Tuscany Trail, I was not trained, I'd just been sick before, so it was very difficult. So at the end of the race, I said, okay, I'm going to retire, I'm going to stop cycling, that's it, I had fun, but that's it. But very quickly, the next month, I wanted to go. So the next trip should be the north of Pakistan, and the idea is, I don't know whether I repeated that 3 times, and then I would like to go without planning and just play it by ear. On the luggage, it's different because it's bike packing, so it's more on the saddle, so I must have like 7 kilos. It's really limited to what I have to there, but I cannot imagine traveling differently, because I don't know, it's easier to pedal. And the next trip is Norway again, in a slow trip with boat, pedaling, bus, and then cycling again. And what about you? So the luggage, it's not 20, it's 27 kilos I weigh it every time. I want to be lighter weight, but I can't do it. The next trip, I hesitate. I was too cold last year going to Prague, so we never go from Calais to Prague and then Prague to Calais. I didn't like coming back to Calais. People say, why don't you go to the Polar Circle and come back? No. Coming home is, leaving is great, but coming home is not that good. So I wait for the 2nd of June, because I operated on my my left foot is painful, so my right hip is, so I have a medical examination on the 2nd. I decided to, ideally I wanted to go to Greece, but I'll go to Rome first. And then I have a wedding. I have to take my parents to a wedding on the 19th of August. So if really I keep my promises, I want to go there. And otherwise, maybe I'm going to go a round trip by plane and go to Greece. I don't know. I don't know yet. But in any case, the fact that my parents are still alive, we have a contract with my brothers and sisters. When they're not there anymore, I will have no military. I will try to go as far as possible east, always going east, with the sun in my eyes. I'm here, in the front row. Sorry to be the only one to ask a question, but the only man on the screen, because you put the finger on the question. What about the role of Driss? What was his position in your project, in your film? How did you? What was his experience, and how was your experience? Well, he's the most wonderful support you can imagine. He's the one who encouraged me to do it, because once again, I didn't know how to shoot videos, and he's crazy positive. He sees positive in everything. He said, you can do it, you can do it. So his role was that he was always there to support me and encourage me, especially for the period for editing a film, that you feel with 1 year of images to derush, put them into a story, because going on a trip and making a film, it was more difficult for me to make the film than actually go on a trip. So when my computer would just die and then Driss would enter and my computer would just come back to life, I hated him, but at the same time it was visitor's effect. So he took on a role that was really a feminist role, actually, supporting me with a lot of love. And in every meeting, he also had great opportunities of reflecting about gender. And even now, sometimes I say, that, and that, I didn't understood at the time. And so it's great to see, really, to have someone, a partner in your life, that we deconstruct himself as we reconstruct ourselves. So I hope that he's watching, because I've just won some love points here. I'm here. Oh, there. I have a true question, but I just, in line with the previous questions, I was wondering what kind of support you could be for Driss, because it must have been difficult. I may be wrong, but I think it is kind of adventure, the one you've experienced, all the four of you. The mindset is more important than your muscles. So how did you experience when you just when you were down, or when you were missing your family, or friends or relatives? How did you manage to support some people that is maybe a bit awkward? Psychologically, the psychological moment. Well, it's going to be different, because as I was saying, the power of being two, having someone to whom you can vent. Driss was tired, or if he was complaining because he was hungry. I know that he's hungry at that time, so just take a chocolate bar and that's it. So by knowing each other well, it made it that when one is down, the other one is up. So you can always have each other's back. So I lost what I was going to say, but I was thinking it was... It's funny because when I'm alone, I manage myself. When someone is there, I tend to vent. But when you're alone, you tend to sort of take charge of yourself. It's more of a procedure by step. So, okay, now you're not feeling well, but you're going to be okay. And that's what I noticed is circularity of the world. You know that there are times when you're not well and moments when you're going to be well. And sure, take some hindsight, you're not well, okay, that's fine. It's an observation, but you know that it's a phase. It's just one phase after another, and that helps. When you're alone, you can implement that and say everything is just passing. And then you make jokes to yourselves, and then when you're someone, I'm complaining, I'm moaning all the time. That's the advantage of being alone. Now, it is 9:05, but we continue the discussion outdoors, so you can ask all your questions. So thank you very much to all of you.